In pursuit of better understanding of the application of project-based learning, Mason County Central Middle School Academy team members set out on the Lake Michigan Car Ferry Badger to one of America's most amazing schools as voted recently by the Ladies' Home Journal, New Country Schools, located in Henderson, Minnesota. Tucked along the levee banks of the Minnesota River is an innovative school leading the charge in educational reform. Located in a town of 900 inhabitants, Henderson, Minnesota is the home of New Country Schools. New Country Schools is a member of EdVision's cooperative, has created an environment in which fosters meaningful instruction, engagement of all students in the learning process, and has successfully fosters its students to meet its state standards. New Country Schools is on the cutting edge of redefining a new model for education today. What is at the core of its success? Project-based learning. Let's take a look at the successful model.
The wetland near the city of Henderson is giving up some bizarre secrets. Deformed frogs. Carol Evans Can Speak shows us the importance of the discovery.
Well, he can't. Both of his legs are deformed. I think this is the first one we've gotten with both legs deformed.
Looks okay, doesn't he?
No.
Oh, no. Oh, look at that. Now, that's kind of like where the... No, that's coming right. Good grief.
Research scientists Judy Helgen and Joel Shearhart work for the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. They'd been alerted to the deformed frogs by students of the Minnesota New Country School in Le Sueur who'd come to the Nye Wildlife Area for a field trip.
Oh, look at that.
They noticed the malformed frogs and found that half the frogs they collected had some kind of deformity.
Oh, my gosh, look at that.
Judy Helgen says that's 100 times as high as scientists expect.
You know, they see abnormalities, one in, I don't know, a few hundred frogs, but to have the kind of thing that these students have found is very unusual.
The frogs will go to a laboratory to be analyzed for abnormally high levels of unusual chemicals like heavy metals or pesticides. When they find out what might have caused the deformities, they'll try to figure out what to do about it. Ken Speak, KARE 11 News, near Henderson.
That mutant frog discovery set off research around the world, and all because of work being done on a project.
I like project-based learning a lot because it allows me to develop my own sense of what I want to do.
What I like about project-based learning is that it allows me to really focus on what I like to do and just also get the things done that I need to do.
Basically, I can do what I'm interested in. I like project-based learning because it's something that I can decide how I want to do it and it's hands-on. But you have profiles you need to follow. Everyone has certain things they need to study before they graduate. You need to study history, you need to do math, you need to do art, some sort of public speaking skills. You have all these things you need to do, but you're not told specifically what you need to do.
Good, now we can get started. I only have a half hour for lunch and I've already spent about 15 minutes setting things up. I was hoping to get a chance to eat my lunch, but come on. First of all, I'm not a professional actor, and it probably wouldn't have taken me long to figure that one out. I'm a high school junior, and I go to school here, so if you're expecting Meryl Streep, well, then you're out of luck.
High school. Middle school. What? Oh, you caught that. No doubt about it, that is a high school, although it really doesn't look anything like a classroom. It all looks more like an office. Each student has his or her own work area, desk, chair, a place for storing papers and research material, and many of the work areas have computers. Also in there is the teacher's desk. Well, we don't call them teachers. They're called advisors. And instead of classroom, this is called an advisory. An advisory in our school is made up of about 18 students with kids from all grade levels, an advisor, and sometimes an assistant advisor.
This is probably the best place for me to begin to explain to you what project-based learning is all about. I go to a project-based school, so I know my way around this stuff pretty well, but I've only got 13 minutes to cover what it took me a month to really know. In a lot of ways, project-based learning is straightforward, but in some ways it's complex. So hang in here with me while I get another visual aid. This is a traditional classroom, this is the teacher, these are the students. In most cases, the teacher stands in front of the classroom and talks at the students. Over here, we have the advisor teacher who doesn't address all of the students all at once. No lectures. The advisor works with, consults, and advises each student on an individual basis during the course of the entire school day. In turn, the student asks questions, seeks advice, and even complains. The complaining is one of my specialties. As you can see, what we have here is a dialogue happening between student and advisor in real time at any time during the course of the school day. Over here, well, you get the idea. For me, a traditional school setting is a lot like having a phone conversation with someone, but you only have half a phone. You do a lot of listening, but you don't get to say very much about anything.
In a project-based setting, there's always time for the student and teacher to get to know each other. The relationship is pretty informal, very comfortable, with lots of good two-way communication. There's also a great deal of respect and trust between my advisor and me. The advisor takes on the role of learning resource consultant, a friend who is truly interested in what I'm doing. In fact, the advisor becomes sort of a partner in my education. Most of the time, we're both learning together.
An advisor is someone who works with you. Advisors figure there to help you along the way of your learning.
They're kind of like a relative of some sort.
They don't put you at that level where they are the teacher and they look down upon you. I think that the word advisor is just a word to kind of make the general feeling of that they're there for you.
This is a project. This is my dead chicken, well, mummified chicken that I started working on a few months ago. The project isn't really about dead chickens, it's more about Egyptology and how the Egyptians mummified both animals and people. First you have to take a box of baking soda and a lot of salt and mix it together in order to create something called natron. Next you have to clean and get as much moisture out of the chicken as possible. Now, the ancient Egyptians used to remove all the organs, but the grocery store already did that for me. Once the chicken is all prepared, then you put it into a canopic jar. You pour in the natron, and then you have to wait about 6 weeks for it to dry out. My interest in this project started because, well, I was really into Egyptian mummies when I was a little younger, and there aren't a lot of books out there on, like, wrapping chickens, so I got most of my information from the internet. It's not a very reliable source, but there were a surprisingly large amount of mummified chickens out there. I wouldn't have explored this project as much as I did if it weren't for project-based learning.
Lots of states across the country have detailed academic standards they expect students to meet, and Minnesota is one of those states. We each get a copy of this. It's our curriculum guide, which contains all the academic standards and requirements for the state of Minnesota.
I'm going to do this fast, so stay with me. Our school year is divided up into blocks which are between 5 and 7 weeks long. As students, we develop our own curriculum by designing projects. You can do one project in a block, you can do several projects in a block, you can have a project that spans several blocks. What counts are credits. We're expected to earn 10 credits per year until graduation. Each credit will roughly represent about 100 hours of work. We propose what we think a project is worth in terms of credits, and then it's up to us to document and defend those credits at a project team meeting. To start with, filling in your name is always good. Project title as well as topic or area of interest that'll be investigated are next, and then comes at least 3 questions that you intend to answer by doing this project. Section 3 here shows how a project-based learning takes your education outside the classroom. How will this project affect me and not just my work at school? Here in number 4, you need to create some sort of outline showing how you intend to develop the project. Section 5 takes some serious thought. You define the tasks you intend to accomplish and when you expect to accomplish them. Project-based learning and time management skills go hand in hand. Section 6 is about resources. Where are you going to get your information? Books? The internet? Interviews? But if you look at this last section, the primary resource must be a living person.
So if you were going to learn about plumbing, it would mean that you would most likely have a plumber as your primary resource. This is something you have to consider at the beginning of the process when the idea for the project first comes up. This is an area where advisors and other people on the staff at the school can be of a lot of help. Ew.
Section 7 refers to the standards and requirements for learning in the state of Minnesota. Remember when I mentioned clear academic expectations? This is the section where all that becomes really clear. But I'm going to hold off on this one until a little later. Section 8 is credits. What do you think all this work will be worth? It's my job to estimate how much work I'll be putting into this project and how much I should get out. But it doesn't mean I'll get all those credits. And you'll see how that works as we move along. Section 9 is the first of several approval processes that you have to go through with any project.
Keeping the project on track and on time is very important. We call this process DTLs, which is short for Documentation of Time and Learning. It's a journal of sorts, tracking progress on a daily basis. I know they help me stay organized, and they come in pretty handy when your advisor casually happens to ask, "Hey, what are you up to?"
When I was doing the, traditional thing, when you don't have an advisor, you just have a teacher. They're kind of talking at you as opposed to talking to you, and they don't give you the time and attention you need. Like, they spit a bunch of facts out at you. You absorb it like some kind of freakish sponge and squeeze yourself out on a test and then forget it a couple weeks later. I feel like this is a little more practical, like I'm taking in stuff that I'm going to use in the future.
Project-based learning comes complete with motivation built right in. That's right, there's nothing else to buy. It's because we're not just learning how to learn, which is what high school should be all about to begin with, but we're learning to enjoy learning. Hard to believe but true, there are kids having fun in high school and not just playing games and doing sports, but having fun in the classroom, engaged and being challenged every day. Project-based learning isn't just for high school. There are many project-based schools that cover grades 6 through 12, and there are even a few project-based elementary schools in the works.